So when it came down to this client who decided that they were not going to pay us for whatever reason, um, it really was a kick in the gut. And it was like, what do I do?
Welcome to 100 Days of Trailhead, where the tech community comes to learn Salesforce, learn tech, get inspired, and invest in ourselves. We are your trail guides, here to support you on your learning journey. We release videos weekly. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. In the description below, you can find links for everything we mention in this video, as well as books and resources we found useful. Visit our blog, 100daysoftrailhead.com, for other helpful Salesforce and tech content. Today we are talking with Krystal Carter, a successful Black entrepreneur, to learn about her journey and get some advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Krystal Carter is a president and chief cloud enthusiast of DKC, Danny Cloud Consulting. She is a strong believer in giving back to community, which is a part of her family's legacy. DKC has allowed Krystal to make an even greater community impact, where she is able to continue her family's legacy.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
And I'm Rachel.
From 100 Days of Trailhead. And today we're here with Krystal Carter, someone that I just admire and think the world of.
Well, thank you so much today for being here, Krystal. It is such an honor to have you with us.
I am honored that you guys asked me to be here. So thank you.
So just to kind of level set for the audience, can you tell us a little bit just generally about you, just anything that you want the audience to know, fun facts, anything?
Well, that is a loaded question. There's some random things about me that I can give you guys. So since you said fun facts, I'm going to go completely off script and things that have nothing to do with work. First thing, I was on Family Feud when I was 17 and my family lost terribly. That was pretty exciting. And secondly, I speak English backwards fluently, not reverse sentences, not pig Latin, but literally speak English, the English language backwards. I had a lot of time on my hands when I was a kid. So I made up my language called Pilf Poff, which is flip flop backwards. So those are my two fun random things. As far as like work stuff, I have been a part of the Salesforce ecosystem for the past, I think either 15 or 16 years at this point. Of course, I started when I was 12. Yeah. So, and have been running my own Salesforce practice for the past 4.5 years. So it's been an exciting ride. It definitely has opened up doors that I never expected to walk through which I've never expected to walk. But yeah, so those are some random, little setting the stage about me, if you will.
Well, that is a perfect segue. So how did you get into tech or Salesforce?
That's a great question. I had absolutely no plans on going into a career in technology. My original goal was to go to law school and become an attorney and make a whole bunch of money. And that didn't end up happening. And it didn't end up happening because, finances and college and all that fun stuff. I ended up working for a medical waste company as their marketing admin. And while I was working for that company merged with another marketing waste company who was using Salesforce. Now, this was back in like 2004, I think. So they were using Salesforce like a glorified Rolodex instead of like it was supposed to be used. And so when those companies merged, one of the folks at the new company, I think he was the VP of sales at the time, came to me and he was like, "Hey, Krystal, we hear you're really good with computers. Can you see what you can do with the Salesforce thing?" And so I went to see what I could do with that Salesforce thing. I logged into it and got in the back end. And I have said time and time again, it was like love at first login, right? Like I had been running our commissions and all that kind of stuff using Excel. And when I saw how I can transition everything that I was doing in Excel into Salesforce and then made it automated, like put action behind what I was doing in a very static yet sophisticated spreadsheet, it was like, that was it for me. And because that was so early on in Salesforce's life at that point, I think Salesforce started in 99 and this was 2004. The demand for Salesforce was growing. So as soon as I posted on, I think at the time the website was Career Builders, like I posted my resume on Career Builders and it had Salesforce in it, the inquiries just flooded my inbox, right? So it was like, maybe I should look into this Salesforce thing because so many people are reaching out for it. And that was really the catalyst for me starting a career in Salesforce. And it literally just took off from there. I think I tell people I went probably 10 years without ever applying for a job and was offered positions at several amazing companies along the way. It's been an interesting sojourn, so to speak.
Okay, so that leads to the next question. What was the impetus for you to start your own business?
It was not something that I planned to do. I'll tell you that. Um, so the reason I started DKC was really a push, so to speak, from one of my former customers. I had taken a position as a VP of a legal technology role with a national consulting firm, and on day one, I realized I probably made a mistake because I was like, hey, where is my Salesforce login? And they said, oh, we don't use Salesforce. So I was like, oh, we implement it, but we don't use it. I don't understand. So that was my first red flag. I mean, it really just kind of turned out to be that that company felt very, um, I call it white walls, right? It was a very East Coast type culture when I feel like I'm a Silicon Valley girl living in the South. So after about a year and a half, I realized it wasn't a good fit. And so I was like, I need to take a step back, figure out what I want my right next step to be. So I took a position, rolling out Salesforce, training a corporate commercial real estate at a commercial real estate firm. I was supposed to roll Salesforce out to 23 different cities just doing training. And while I was doing that, one of my clients from that previous consulting company, they called me and they were like, hey, the other consulting firm has not been able to deliver the project since you left, and we'd really like to wrap up this project with you. And I was like, that'd be great, but I don't have anywhere for you to follow me. Like, I'm in a non-compete. That client got me out of my non-compete with the previous consulting firm. And they said, now we want to work with you. So I was like, okay, great, we'll work together. I'll be your independent consultant, but my bill rate is going to be the same as what the bill rate was with the previous consulting firm. And they were like, well, we can't really pay an individual the same thing we pay a company. So being the Texan that I am, I said, hold my beer, let me go ahead and set up an LLC, and now you can pay me the same thing that you would pay for my services before, because you're getting the same caliber of work because it's me that you wanted to work with. So they were the catalyst for me starting the company. And shortly after that customer, another one of my the CFO from a previous company where I'd worked, he found out that I had started a company, and he reached out and he was like, hey, I need you and your team to come and do what you did at our previous oil technologies company. So that was the second customer, and it really just kind of rolled in from there. So I always say starting a company was never something that I aspired to do. I like getting that every 15th and 30th of the month check, knowing exactly how much is coming in and all that kind of stuff, and not having the risk associated with being a business owner. But it has worked out well for me, and I'm glad that that customer really gave me the push that I needed to go in a direction that I'd never really foreseen for myself.
That is truly amazing to hear that you were valued so much that that company fought for you to get out of a non-compete so you could do this. I think that says a lot about what you can deliver and integrity, the whole 9 yards. So
I think that was also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that was one thing I wanted them to understand too, is one of the tenets of my company is integrity, right? They needed to know going in, like, I am always going to do things on the up and up. So I'm not going to work with them under the radar while I know that I have given this commitment that I would not, compete with my previous company's thing. So I felt like I needed to start the company with those morals, those values. And it's really kind of driven how we have done business since then.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, what was your most challenging aspect of your career?
Getting that first company, that first client that decided they didn't want to pay their bill.
What?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That was
discuss.
that was definitely the most challenging um, aspect of dealing with being a business owner. Largely because one of the reasons I never wanted to start a company was because I don't like talking about money. So I don't like asking for money. I don't like telling you to pay me. Like I don't like talking about money. So when it came down to this client who decided that they were not going to pay us for whatever reason, um, it really was a kick in the gut. And it was like, what do I do? I've already paid my employees for the work that they have done on this. We've already delivered the solution. It's already gone into production. So just like with anything, when you have a challenge or you realize that something may not have been done correctly or you've made a mistake, you get to sulk in the corner for a little bit, and then you have to figure out, how do I fix this, right? So one of the first things that we did was we changed our master services agreement so that we save ourselves by saying that we can require final payment prior to us flipping the switch on, in order for us to flip the switch on deployment. So just things of that sort to make sure that in the future we're covered. It was the first time I actually had to take legal action because we had delivered what we said we were going to deliver and some. Um, and for whatever reason, that client decided to not pay. So I had to actually make a real grown-up decision to file a lawsuit and go through those steps and deal with attorneys and all that fun stuff. Fun stuff's not fun, but I would definitely say that was my most challenging. That was my most challenging aspect thus far as a business owner.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I mean, that will help so many aspiring business owners out there because people have no idea how often that actually does happen in business, and it happens sometimes in organizations that you would never imagine. So,
Mhm.
thank you for telling that truth, um,
Right.
and being that transparent. So let's change up. What was your biggest success? What's been your biggest success in your career?
So my biggest success was landing a client that I thought I had no possible chance of landing. And I won't disclose the name of the client, but they just so happened to be the new medical school with the largest university in the country. So we went in, we were referred by a friend of mine from high school and went in and landed the deal for implementing or re-implementing their Salesforce org. And it was pretty cool because I went in with one of the guys who was my project manager, who plays a role of project manager at DKC. And when we went into the room, we sat in the conference room, we hadn't introduced ourselves, and all the people around the table started talking, and they all started talking to my project manager, thinking that he was like, or the person in charge. And when I started talking, it became very apparent that I was the one who actually knew all the Salesforce stuff, and he was just the one to make sure deliverables stayed on time and all that stuff. And so that was the first time I'd actually really experienced like being a woman in the room and people not expecting me to be who I was. And then realizing, oh, she actually knows all the things. Oh, she's the one who's like pulling the strings here. And so that was a very interesting and eye-opening experience for me. But landing that client was really exciting. And I want to say that was in either our first or second year of business. And it was just really cool to be able to land an account like that. And yeah, I would say that'd probably be the most exciting aspect so far.
well, congrats for that. That is incredible. And I can tell you that I know a lot of women, including myself, have been in similar situations. And thank you for voicing that because I
Mhm.
think it's really important for people to know and for people to hear.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think my advice for aspiring entrepreneurs would be, one, understand your why. Why are you going out and going out on your own? What void are you filling in the space? um, have something that makes you extremely marketable. The other thing I would say is be ready to work a lot harder than you have worked before. But don't let that piece scare you, because while you may be working harder, you have a lot more flexibility in when and how you work. I say that to say, I think in my first year, I realized, I had clients, we had good income coming in, and I was working really hard. And one day I just woke up and decided, I'm going to work in Aruba this week. And I had the flexibility to do that. I didn't have to ask for permission. I didn't have to say, can I take some time off or can I go work remotely? And I still worked. I had my laptop at the beach in Aruba, but I had the flexibility to do that. But my advice would be understand your why. Why are you taking this step? To understand that you're going to work harder before you lighten up, right? So you have to be ready and be tenacious. And then also know that once you start hiring people, you're going to have to sometimes make decisions on whether you pay them. You're going to have to pay them before you pay yourself, right? So just being prepared for those realities. But the other piece I would say too is also don't be afraid to have fun with what you're doing. Like I mentioned our values before, one of our values is fun, right? Where I feel like work and fun should not be mutually exclusive. And we make a point to have fun with what we're doing. Because if you're going to work for yourself and you're not going to have fun, then why are you doing it? Right. Um, so those would probably be my key pieces of advice to folks looking to start their own thing.
One of the things that I love most about you, that you are a person who gives back. Like what most people don't know is that you created these BAM sessions, and basically you give your time to the community. Like there's an actual whole section on your website that talks about how much you give back. And that's one thing that when I was looking for a mentor, that I admired so much about you. And that's why, I asked you to be my mentor, because you not only like take care of business, but you actually give back to your community. And I love, love, love that.
My dad was a huge influence in my life, and my father was extremely, extremely community focused. He would go and volunteer at the youth detention centers about 2 to 3 times a week. One of our clients actually, I'm gonna try not to cry when I tell you the story. One of the nonprofits that we're working with, we try to do a pro bono nonprofit engagement 2 times a year, so 2 different clients. The head of one of these nonprofits, he started a school for at-risk children, so children who have been in the system. And he was referred to me by someone, and my older sister said, "Hey, Krystal, when you go over to see Marvin, be careful because his school is actually located on the same facility as one of the youth detention centers that I used to go to with my dad every Sunday morning." Every Sunday morning. And I'm so glad that she told me that ahead of time, because then I pulled up to that location and not known where the GPS was taking me, I may have lost it. But being like that for me was me seeing this all kind of come full circle. Like I mentioned, like that community piece was something that was really instilled in me by my dad. And to have a client reach out who was actually on the same exact campus as where my dad spent so many of his Sunday mornings. And this client actually ended up naming one of their it's like apprenticeship programs after my father, because they had actually heard about the work that my dad had done on the campus. So it's just, it's so hard to talk about that, but it's just, it's important. It's so important, because I feel like I am where I am, not because of the things that I have done, but because of the things that people have poured into me. And it is incumbent upon me to do the same thing for other people who may not have the same, I'm sorry, who may not have the same.
Passion. I love that. This is
But
beautiful.
like that, but that's what it is, right? That's what we do. Like when I started DKC, our inaugural event was we rented out the nicest movie theater in Houston. We did an open call for teenage girls to do a video interview to talk about why they want a career in tech, and we brought them out and and had them watch Hidden Figures on the opening week, or I think it was the week that Hidden Figures opened. And we had them listen to a panel of amazing women who, like Stephanie Herrera came and was on that panel, and Molly Ford from Salesforce. And we had some folks, some amazing women who had worked at NASA for several decades come out. Like, it's my job to not only implement Salesforce for my customers and help them do business better, but it's my job to give this opportunity and to expose these opportunities to people, to young girls who look like me, and young people in general who look like me at a younger age, so that they have the ability to make a decision towards a career in tech if that's what they decide to do, but to know that that possibility is out there, so they can make decisions younger, as opposed to me, who stumbled upon it and happened to be able to make an amazing life out of it. I just imagine how much different this would have been if I had known about or thought about a career in tech as a middle schooler or a high schooler. And these young kids inspire me, like their application in robotics and things of that sort at a young age, things I was never thinking about. But I do think that it is my job to help younger people see what their options are. Because you can't be what you can't see. You can't be what you haven't been exposed to. And so if my ability to expose is something that I need to make sure I do, then that's what we're going to do, because I want young people to succeed. There's so much potential in them, and I hate to see it go unrecognized just because they didn't have the right opportunity, or they didn't grow up in the right neighborhood, or their parents didn't have the right amount of money, or what have you. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox.
Oh,
Continue.
no. I love this soapbox and I love this
Woo!
conversation. First of all, it's the ripples of life, right? Like your dad gave back, and that those ripples are still, rippling out into the world. Before I met you physically, I found out about your inaugural event from Mary Scotton.
That's right. That's right. Because you all did one in Phoenix.
We did one in
Yes.
Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
And I found out about your event, and then I saw you speak, and I was like, who is this person? I need to know her, right? And it's like that passion is like in you, is just like this spark that sparks everyone around you. And that's one of the things I love about you. So yes, you have all of that.
It's so interesting. I see so many overlays between you two. Firstly, I want to start by saying that the way that you honor your dad is just tremendous. And the fact that, just like Jessica was saying, it's a ripple effect, and you're a ripple of him extending him. And I mean, to his wildest imagination.
Yes.
And that is awesome. I mean, that is so tremendous. And all these people that you affect, the ones that that you affect, but I guarantee, and I tell Jessica this too, you both come into contact with people, and you have this like brush kind of encounter, and you have absolutely no idea how much you affected them. And it is rippled out. And that really goes just for everybody in life that is trying to do something positive, right? We don't know what kind of impact we're having, because something that we have learned maybe 10, 20 years ago, or maybe even yesterday, it doesn't matter when we learned it. And we freely just give that away, because we want to help. And we're like, oh, this isn't a big deal. I've known this forever, but new to somebody else. And it those what we perceive as simple words, whomever the we is, right? That person that receives it, it's like, whoa, and it totally changes their lives. And I know people have affected me that way, and I came back to them and they go, I didn't even remember I said that. Or when did I say that? What are you talking about? And that's the thing is, and I know that we all have been in that situation where, we've told somebody, they're like, I have no idea. But also people have said, oh, thank you for this piece of, and we're like, okay, I'm glad that helped. I don't really remember. But so that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to say is, it's very interesting that you named your company after your dad, because Jessica named her company after her grandfather and his initiatives, because he was an entrepreneur, and she's extending that. And the town that she grew up in, Deep South, they did everything in their power to, because what he did was he built a business, he built his own house in an area that there was nothing. And that town, they promptly did things that the Deep South loved to do back then, like build a fairground across the street, build a highway right next to it, decided to build projects down the street just to devalue that property.
Yep.
So all this giving back to the community and helping those who might not have had those same opportunities. I see these things aligned in both of you. I see this overlap in both of you. And it says so much about the two of you, and it says so much about why you guys paired up and why Jessica chose you as a mentor. So I just wanted to take a moment.
I like
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to take a moment to really pause there, because there are some significant pieces here that we really need to stop and acknowledge, because there's a lot of reality here. And there's also a lot of good that's happening. And it takes every single one of us to make those ripples, to make those changes, to change the minds. And leading by example is, in it being done with such integrity, is just amazing and can have such an amazing impact.
I think one of the things that is super important for me is what you said, like leading by example, because I want young girls who look like me to see me and say, oh, maybe that is something I can do. And now, they have Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, so they should know they could be able to do just about anything. But this was 4 years ago when I started. She was not Madam Vice President. But like, that was the thing. Like, it's so easy for someone to tell you, go get your education and you can be, go do this and you can be. And you can hear that. But when you see someone who looks like you, who is doing that thing, and beyond that, you see someone who looks like you, who brings you in, right? Like when we held our event, these girls had a 3-course meal, and they got the works. It was like a mini little Dreamforce plus movie and food. Like, it was just amazing for them. And so many of them reached out afterwards, and they were just like, we have never really experienced a thing like that, And I was like, that's exactly what I wanted you to see. I want you to know that, like, you have the ability to do this. There's nothing stopping you, your gender, your skin color, even your age in some respects. Like, there's nothing stopping you from being able to be as powerful, as successful as you want to be. So, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go on what you just said about, there was a Madam Vice President back then. I've seen you actually speak live and talk about girls, and talk about the fact that there are some people who perceive Black women or Black girls in this one specific area. And what I love that you said at one particular conference is that, I'm not the exception. If there are a bunch of me's, and you know what, I can take you to the university where they are. That resonated with me so deeply, because I've been saying this over and over. I am not the exception. I'm actually the rule, really. Yeah. And I love that you said that. So thank you for those words,
Like, I think I remember which conference you're talking about. My two things there was, I'm not the exception. And 2, I don't do a lot of talking. Like, obviously there's a lot of conversation about diversity and inclusion now, and it's conversation that needs to happen. But I don't do a lot of that talking. I show up and I'm like, this is that diversity. This is what it looks like when inclusion is a real thing. Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be, and I'm going to feel that space, and I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm just going to do it. Right. Yeah. Like, so you see that this Black women can run successful technology consulting firms and hire people to work with her. Like, I mean, it's just, it can be done. And I'm going to show you. I tell my clients all the time before I pull up a demo, I'm like, look, I can show you better than I can tell you. So let me just show you, because I'm much better with visual. So there, but that's just the approach I take. Some people are excellent at talking about diversity inclusion. I think about Rakia. I think about Rakia, who does an amazing job when she talks diversity, inclusion. I don't, that's not my wheelhouse, but my wheelhouse is showing up, delivering an amazing project as a Black woman, running a firm, a Black owned business. So that's just my method, my path.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. And we've talked so much about children and nieces and nephews and how it's important to really affect those kids and reaching back to those kids, right?
Mhm.
So if you could have the ear of all the Black children in the world just for a few minutes, what would you tell them?
You have a room full of Black children who are willing and who are open to listening to what you have to say. You have to tell them that they are enough. That's the first thing that you have to tell
Yes.
them.
Yes.
No, I don't know why I'm so emotional. I'm not an emotional person, but like they have to hear that despite what they see on television, despite what people say about Black people online, despite any of the negative things that come across their path, they have to hear that they are enough. Um, a lot of Black kids, a lot of Black people my age, probably kids today, definitely people older than me, have always been told we have to work harder and be 2 times as good in order to be seen as equal. And unfortunately, I still think that in most regards, that is probably still consistent. But I would like for them to know that while you may have to work hard so other people see you as equal, what you need to know is that you are enough regardless of what other people see and think of you. You can do anything regardless of what other people think or see in you. And historically, our people have done, right? There have been so many things that have actually been done by Black people that have been Columbused by others. And it takes so much. One of the things I would tell that room of children was really understand your Black history. There were things I didn't understand going to an all white, top 2% wealth school in the South. Like I was one of 5 Black kids in my entire grade. I went to school where former presidents had gone to school. And so there were things about Black history that I did not learn because that was not a part of the curriculum until I went to an HBCU when I first left. And it opened up my eyes to so many things regarding the history of Black people here and before they came here. And just knowing that that history all is with like all lies in me, like the power of our ancestry. Like I know I'm enough. I don't have to prove it to anybody. I don't have to walk into a room with a chip on my shoulder. Like because I know, I show up that way, right? And that's probably the message that I would give a room full of Black children, like regardless of whatever anyone says or what you see portrayed in any sort of media or what you hear around the block, you are enough. And you go forth as though you know you are enough. That's what I would probably tell that room of children.
I think it's so important. One thing that you really pointed out. I mean, you had a lot of stuff in there.
That was the first time I've ever been asked that question.
And I mean, it was an amazing answer. And there's a bit of truth again that it's true. There's a lot of history that is,
Whitewash.
who tells
Yes.
whitewash
It's whitewash.
and who writes the history? The quote unquote winner.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the winner of the war writes the history.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the winner of the socioeconomic struggle, then it's that group that writes the history. So there's a lot of truth to be told there, and I agree. Everybody needs to know the history. We need to have an open and honest conversation about it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only way that we're going to move forward.
Yep.
I mean, it's nice that we have Black history, but
Yes.
I think Black history needs to be all of the time, because I think that there's constantly things that we're learning, that it's like, what, really? What, really? Like, okay, the super soaker, like the super soaker was invented by a Black man, right? And it took him years to
over
get
20 years, over 20 years to get paid for his invention was what super soakers were huge when I was young.
Yeah.
Huge. They were expensive
Yes.
back in the Stone Ages. And he was like, I mean, it took him 2 decades to get paid for his idea, which had been Columbus.
Right, Columbus. Like, I love that. I love that phraseology. If you could choose to have a superpower, what would you choose and why?
If I could have a superpower, I would probably do what is it, teleportation?
Okay.
You go from one place without, you just go like that.
Yes.
And this is gonna sound real ridiculous, but I absolutely hate driving and I hate traffic, so I don't like to be in cars. So I'd really prefer to just teleport wherever I needed to be.
So I'm just curious, if you have teleportation, where would you snap your fingers or wiggle your nose or whatever the case may be to go? Where's the first place you would go?
For the first place I would go, especially due to this COVID situation, would probably be Paris, which sounds so cliche, but it is one of those places that I try to go every year, sometimes twice a year. It's become my favorite place, which is odd because it was a place where I thought I'd never actually really want to go because it seems really touristy, but it's so full of culture. And it's one of the few places where I could just sit out and people watch and just be completely content with life. So if I could snap my fingers, that's where I go, because I haven't been since, I think, February of 2019. So thanks, 2020.
Right. Oh my gosh, this has been so
Yes.
awesome. Thank you so much for your transparency.
Yes.
Thank you for your, sharing those intimate pieces about your dad and your company and how he really made all those community efforts and how you grew up that way and you continue that legacy. That's amazing. And congratulations on your 16-year
Salesforce life. Lord.
Oh,
We'll have to do something big for our 5-year for DKC turning 5 years old this September. So I'll start planning now so it can be huge, assuming COVID's over, and it could be fantastic.
Yeah, well, maybe we can all get in the kitchen and cook.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Rent a commercial kitchen and we all cook together.
Right, but that would have to be the precursor, because staying true to form, realistically, our big 5-year will probably be some community focused event. But yeah, we can still pull out some bottles of wine and cook in the kitchen too. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. So thank you so much, Krystal. Like, when I thought about who I wanted to interview during this time, I immediately thought of you, and you were so, like, when I even suggested, you'd be like, yes, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you. This has just been amazing.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
well, thank you all for having me, and have a wonderful rest of your Black History Month. Celebrate wildly. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for spending time with us. Please like and subscribe to our channel because we share weekly content to support your tech and Salesforce learning journey. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. Connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on 100daysoftrailhead.com, all of which are listed below. Thank you for learning with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.